A prominent Russian insider has openly suggested that a nuclear strike is not off the table. Is this just political posturing, or are we witnessing a dangerous new chapter in global security? Well, let's get into it. The man at the center of this storm is Sergei Karaganov, a longtime Kremlin advisor and a key voice in Russia's defense policy. In a recent appearance on Russian state media, he delivered a message that was impossible to ignore. He stated that Europe, and specifically the UK, must understand that if the conflict in Ukraine escalates to an extreme level, nuclear options could become a reality. He didn't mince words, suggesting that if confrontation deepens, Russia might use weapons that are typically considered unthinkable. Karaganov's warning is tied directly to Western support for Ukraine. He argues that if this support continues without restraint, the question isn't asterisk if asterisk escalation will happen, but asterisk when asterisk. His message is clear. European powers need to recognize that the threat of a nuclear response is a core part of Russia's deterrence strategy. This isn't just a random comment. It's a calculated signal aimed at changing the calculus in Western capitals. These remarks didn't happen in a vacuum. They came on the heels of intense Russian drone and missile attacks across Ukraine, which drew fresh condemnation from NATO and its allies. These military actions have intensified fears that Russia is deliberately testing the resolve of the NATO alliance, pushing the boundaries of what is considered acceptable escalation in modern warfare. The timing suggests a coordinated effort to apply maximum pressure, both on the battlefield and in the realm of psychological warfare. So how seriously should we take this? Critics are quick to label Karaganov's words as pure propaganda. They argue it's a textbook example of psychological warfare designed to intimidate Western leaders, deter further aid to Ukraine, and sow chaos and division among allies. They point out that Russia has a history of using nuclear posturing as a form of leverage in international disputes. It's a way to make the West think twice before making its next move. However, others caution against dismissing these threats so easily. They argue that under specific circumstances, the threat of using nuclear weapons is an established part of Russia's strategic doctrine. Unlike some nuclear powers that have a strict no-first-use policy, Russia maintains a more ambiguous stance. This doctrine allows for the possibility of using nuclear weapons first, particularly if the state's very existence is perceived to be under threat from conventional forces. This ambiguity is, in itself, a powerful tool of deterrence. Let's break down exactly what's at stake if this threat were to become a reality. First, there's Europe's vulnerability. While the UK and France have their own nuclear arsenals, most European nations do not. They lack the independent capacity to retaliate against a nuclear attack, making them heavily reliant on the collective security promised by NATO. This brings us to NATO's obligations. An attack on one member is considered an attack on all, triggering the famous Article 5 Mutual Defense Clause. But this principle has never been tested in the context of a full-scale nuclear exchange. Would a nuclear strike on a European NATO member automatically lead to a retaliatory nuclear strike from the US, the UK, or France? The answer is uncertain, and that uncertainty is precisely what Russian strategists may be trying to exploit. The human cost would be beyond catastrophic. Even a limited nuclear strike on a European city would result in unimaginable casualties, devastating environmental fallout, and long-term radioactive contamination that would render vast areas uninhabitable for generations. The medical, social, and economic consequences would be unparalleled in human history. Then there are the political implications. The mere threat of nuclear use fundamentally changes the diplomatic landscape. It alters how nations negotiate, how aid is delivered, and how alliances are tested and formed. Some analysts refer to this as nuclear blackmail, the deliberate use of nuclear threats to coerce political decisions from other countries. By repeatedly raising the nuclear specter, Russia aims to force its adversaries to back down without ever having to fire a single nuclear warhead. This isn't the first time we've heard this kind of rhetoric. Throughout the conflict, various Russian officials have issued similar warnings. Earlier this year, another Putin ally warned of nuclear war if Ukraine were allowed to use Western weapons to strike deep inside Russian territory. This pattern suggests that the current warning from Karaganov is part of a broader, ongoing strategic communication campaign. It's a consistent drumbeat, intended to keep the West off balance and constantly aware of the ultimate stakes. So, is Karaganov's threat credible, or is it just dangerous brinksmanship? The truth is, it might be both. Whether or not Russia would ever actually follow through, the message to Europe and NATO is unambiguous. Tread carefully. The line that has long separated conventional warfare from nuclear escalation is being deliberately blurred, at least in a rhetorical sense. And every decision made by Western leaders now carries an extra layer of weight, shadowed by this ultimate threat. We can no longer afford to assume that the nuclear threat is purely hypothetical. For European nations, and especially for a key target like the UK, this is a moment for sober reflection. The delicate balance between diplomacy, defense, deterrence, and alliance cohesion must be navigated more carefully than ever before. Every action and reaction has the potential to move us closer to or further from an unthinkable precipice. The world is watching, holding its breath, as these high-stakes geopolitical chess moves play out. The implications of getting it wrong are too dire to contemplate. If you found this deep dive into a complex and critical issue helpful, please hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe to the channel for more analysis on the tensions shaping our world. Stay alert, stay informed, and thank you for watching.